साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितां च ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुर्वभीष्टसपूरकं गुरुगणराशिषसम्भूषितं चिन्ताचिन्तसमस्तवेदनिपुणं श्रीरूपपन्थानुगं गोविन्दाभिधम् उज्ज्वलं वर्तनं भक्त्यन्वितं सुन्दरं वन्दे विश्वगुरून् च दिव्यभगवत्प्रेम्णो हि बीजप्रदं देवं दिव्यतनुं सुचन्द्रवदनं बालार्कचेलाञ्चितं सान्द्रानन्दपूरं सदेकवर्णं वैराग्यविद्याम्बुधिं श्रीसिद्धान्तनिधिं सुभक्तिलसितं सारस्वतानाम्बरं वन्दे तं शुभदं मदेकशरणं न्यासीश्वरं श्रीधरं श्रीसिद्धान्तसरस्वतीति विदितौ गौडीयगुर्वन्वये भातभानुरिव प्रभातगगने गौरसङ्कीर्तनये मायावादतिमिङ्गिलोदरगतान् उद्धृत्य जीवानिमान् कृष्ण प्रेम सुधाब्दिगाहन सुखम प्रदात प्रभुं तं भजे। नमो गौरकिशोराय भक्तावधूतमूर्तये गौराङ्घ्रपद्मभृङ्गाय राधाभावनिषेविने वन्दे भक्तिविनोदं श्रीगौरशक्तिस्वरूपकं भक्तिशास्त्रज्ञसम्राजं राधारससुधानिधिं गौरव्रजाशिताशेषैर्वैष्णवैर्वन्दविग्रहं जगन्नाथप्रभुं वन्दे प्रेमाब्धिं वृद्धवैष्णवम्। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनामिने गौरतुसे नमः। So I want to welcome everyone, Sashtang Dandot Pranam to all devotees, Vaishnavas, servitors of the divine mission of Param Guru Mahārāj and Gurudev. Today is Friday. We're here for the online Sangha that we have, and we're going through the search for Sri Krishna, Reality the Beautiful. So we'll be picking it up from where we left off. We're broadcasting at the request and on the orders of our affectionate guardian here in Sokalpuri, near San Jose, California, Srila Bhakti Janardhan Mahārāj. And I have our divine panelists on. Let me bring them on. Dandat Pranam Shripad Arun Krishna Prabhu. Dandat Pranam Shripad Chinmay Dev Prabhu.
Dhanyavad.
Hare Krishna. So we're at the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju at the beautiful Seva Ashram here at Sokalpuri, trying to be of some service to the servitors. So we left off. Today's topic is fossilism versus subjective evolution, which is the second chapter of this search for Sri Krishna, Reality the Beautiful. But there is like two sections left in the first chapter, which is Saints, Scriptures, and Gurus. So if you permit, then I can just finish up with those two sections, and then we can start our topic of today. So here this reads, this section is from Saints, Scriptures, and Gurus, and if someone wants to follow along, it's page 53. It says, World War III, let it be. Now this is student. Many people are worried about nuclear war. They think it may come very soon. Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj. That is a point on a line on a plane in a solid. So many times Wars are coming and going. So many times the sun, the earth, and solar systems disappear and again spring up. We are in the midst of such thought in eternity. This nuclear war is a tiny point. What of that? Individuals are dying at every moment. The earth will die. The whole human section will disappear. Let it be. Thank you. We must try to live in eternity. Not any particular span of time or space. We must prepare ourselves for our eternal benefit, not for any temporary remedy. The sun, the moon, and all the planets appear and vanish. They die, and then again they are created. Within each an eternity we have to live. Religion covers that aspect of our existence. We are told to view things from this standpoint. Not only this body, but the human race, the animals, the trees, the entire earth, and even the sun will all vanish and again spring up. Creation, dissolution, creation, dissolution. It will continue forever in the domain of misconception. At the same time, there is another world which is eternal. We are requested to enter there to make our home in that plane which neither enters into the jaws of death nor suffers any change. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse number 16, it is stated, Abrahma bhuvanala loka punar avartino arjuna mam upaityatu kaunteya punarjanna vidyate. Even Lord Brahma, the creator himself, has to die. Up to Brahmalok, the highest planet in the material world, the whole material energy undergoes such changes. But if we can cross the area of misunderstanding and enter the area of proper understanding, then there is no creation or dissolution. That is eternal. And we are children of that soil. Our bodies and minds are children of this soil which comes and goes, which is created and then dies. We have to get out of this world of death. Namaskar Anilji, welcome.
Hare Krishna, sir.
Haribol. Namaskar Ramanandaji, welcome. So the next section here reads Zone of Nectar. We are in such an area. What is to be done? Try to get out. Try your best to get out of this mortal area. Ramanandaji, can you please mute your microphone?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Thank you. No problem. Try to get out. Try your best to get out of this mortal area. The saints inform us, come home, dear friend. Let us go home. Why are you suffering so much trouble unnecessarily in a foreign land? The spiritual world is real. This material world is unreal, springing and vanishing, coming and going. It is a farce. From the world of farce, we must come to reality. Here in this material world, there will be not only one war, but wars after wars, wars after wars. There is a zone of nectar, and we are actually children of that nectar. That does not die. Shrunvantvashve amritasya putra. Somehow we are misguided here. But really, we are children of that soil which is eternal, where there is no birth or death. With a wide and broad heart, we have to approach there. This is declared by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Bhagavad Gita. The Upanishads and the Srimad Bhagavatam all confirm the same thing. That is our very sweet, sweet home, and we must try our best to go back to God, back to home, and take others with us. Hare Krishna. So that was the conclusion of the Saint Scriptures and Gurus chapter. And now we're beginning with Fossilism versus Subjective Evolution. The following chapter is an excerpt from a conversation between Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj and neurophysiologist Dr. Daniel Murphy. Darwin has given the theory of evolution, fossilism. Vedanta has given subjective evolution. In Darwin's theory of objective evolution, matter evolves consciousness. The object exists first, and by its development, life is coming, consciousness is coming from stone. That is objective evolution. But an object is a relative term. Without the subject, an object cannot stand. The subject is the primary substance. Whatever is to be felt is only an idea in the subjective ocean. So the subject, consciousness, is first. The object, the gross, proceeds from the subtle. When a particular potency is handled by Krishna in his form as Mahavishnu, then the material energy begins to move and produce something. Maya dhakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. The first product is a general ego. Then gradually so many plural individual egos emanate from the general ego. The experience of this world develops from ego. When ego contacts the mode of ignorance, form is produced. When it contacts the mode of goodness, the sun and light are produced. When false ego comes in connection with these three modes of nature, a division takes place, and the objects of the senses, the material senses, and the power of sense perception are generated. So, from the subtle, the gross is coming. So, a brief pause here. I just want to submit here that fossilism is nothing but objective evolution, where the external form or the external objects exist, and because of those, the subject is envisioned as evolving, as a secondary substance. So in the objective or the fossilism, the primary substance is objective, is the object. And it's the exact opposite in Vedanta, where it is saying that the subtle produces the gross. It's the subject. Evolution is of the subjective nature, and forms are secondary. Yes, Arun Prabhu?
So the so-called scientific view keeps changing. Another way of saying changing is not consistent. So the current scientific view is that an objective view, it took me some time to really go to dictionary and see the context. The notion of an objective view is that without an observer, the object exists and are consistent. And then the object is the constant, and if there is an observer coming in, it may perceive the object in a consistent way. That means if there is an observer 1, observer 2, observer 3, all observing that object, they will see it identically, they'll measure it into identically. That is the traditional way of defining an objective world. And in the last 2 years, the conclusion that is coming up amongst the scientists is that in fact this material world is not objective, meaning that this material world is not that constant. And what appears as that object, depending on the observers or the subjects, appear differently, which is quite revolutionary given where the materialistic science is based, which has till now, and to a large extent even now, people consider like that, but the finer aspect of material existence, perception, those scientists who are working in that area, they have come to an understanding that in fact there is no objective world, which kind of, again, I'm gratified to see that they see some evidence of the reality. And in this case, Guru Mahārāj is clearly indicating, not just indicating what this world is, but how did this objective world come about? He is explaining that. It's even higher. So if one is a seeker, they will get from Guru Mahārāj's writing and sharing, this is the true nature. If you want to know, here is what it has come about. If you want to stay at the level of an ant view, that's fine. Even an ant view can see something real. But Mahārāj is giving a total view.
Yeah, I know, Jai, beautiful. And if you notice, he mentions like our limited vision given a particular coordinates of the space-time that we're in. So he is, from that perspective, it's kind of almost intuitive to see how space and time are interrelated. And they're the warp and weft of this fabric of this material existence that we have. And you can say both, just on the face of it, you can see how similar they are in terms of time is nothing but, if you were to define it, it's nothing but an interval between two objects or between two events. Two events are separated by time. And if you look at space, space is also an interval, but between objects. So you see how this fabric is interwoven? When we say space-time, so he's giving that perspective from like outside of the space-time constraint. So back to Param Guru Mahārāj.
Ru?
Yes. Yes.
So, Śrīdhar Maharaj mentions here that when the ego comes in contact with the modes of material nature, the gunas, are they energy of Krishna, or what exactly are they?
They are, the three gunas are the material nature. Devi Hayesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Gunamayi. They are material nature. The three modes are the material nature: mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. And they're in some ways, gunas are also envisioned or they're explained as ropes that are binding everything, every individual. And actually, guna karmani sarvasha. So when we're thinking we're the doer, the false ego makes me believe and conditioned entities believe that you're doing this. Look how wonderfully you achieved this task. You're the best person in the world, like that. And we'd like to take credit for it, like, yeah, please praise me. So what happens is, not understanding, the false ego makes us, in illusion, makes us believe that we're the doer. But factually, the gunas are working. Guna karmani sarvash. Ahankar vimhudatma kartahum iti mannate. And under false ego, under that illusion of that external energy of the Lord, the Mudatma, or the not so intelligent person, is thinking, I'm the doer. Look, I built this or I made this. But factually, it's the external energy that is at work. In the conditioned state, the soul is totally in the background, in like a comatose kind of a position. Not activated. Comatose, you understand, like someone goes in a coma and they're in a vegetative state. Kind of like that. So that's how the modes act, and the modes are the external energy. And when the modes start, actually when they start agitating, that's when time starts. So in the beginning, the difference between Prakriti and Pradhan is the agitation of the modes. As soon as the modes start getting active, then there is the roll down of creation from subtle to gross.
And that's exactly how the scientists are coming to a realization of how this creation came about, is from precisely what you said, the perturbations.
Yeah. So they could do themselves a favor and just read Param Guru Mahārāj's works and save all that time, effort, and energy and make some donation. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. They would rather make 150K donation going to Stanford.
There we go. What can be done? That's okay. Fossil fathers is the next section. Fossil fathers. The material scientists think that the subtle proceeds from the gross. This is upside down. Now, remember, why is it upside down? Just a little pause here. Do you remember? Urdhava moolam adharshakam ashrattam prahuravyam. And then connect that back to Srimad Bhagavatam's verse, that Bhayam dutiya vinibhesatasyad ishadape tasya viparrayo. Viprit. Viparrayo means viprit. Viprit means upside down. So these people, they're the thought leaders and the pundits of today, of the so-called modern world. They see everything upside down. So, like the Vaishnavas, once they're, when they're explaining things right side up, it's just like, for them it is either they completely reject it, or it's the other way around. They try to convince the other person, no, you're seeing it wrong, and then but see, upside down, it keeps coming up again and again. So back to Param Guru Mahārāj.
When the bat is sleeping, That
Yeah.
is the right side up. To the bat.
Oh, this is unbelievable. Okay, this is upside down. It is just the opposite. Not fossil fatherism, but God fatherism. Their theory is fossil fatherism. The fossil is the father of everyone. The scientists believe that everything moves upward. This is incorrect. It is coming down. Oh, here we go. In this is described in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse number 1. This is Purushottam Yoga. Urdhava moolam adashakam ashwattam prahuravyam chandam yasya parnani yastam veda savedavid. The tree of this material world has its roots upward, while its branches extend downward. The leaves of this tree are the Vedic hymns. One who understands this tree and its origin is a true knower of the Vedas. So according to Vedic knowledge, everything moves from up to down, not from down to up. Matter does not produce the soul, rather the soul contains in its one negligible portion the conception of matter. Like an eczema, it is a disease. The world exists like an eczema in a wholesome body. This is the Vedantic understanding. It would certainly be a wonderful miracle if stone could produce the soul, but it is easier and more reasonable for us to think that the soul has produced the conception of stone. In the soul, there are many conceptions, and one conception is that of stone. It is all in the plane of consciousness. But that stone can produce soul or consciousness is difficult, ridiculous, inconceivable, and unreasonable. Rather, it is the opposite. Something like the Berkeley theory that the world is in the mind, and not that the mind is in the world. It is only our deviation from the truth that brings us into this mundane world. How and where that deviation begins is to be thought out. But deviation from the truth has brought us to this false area. So consciousness is producing everything. Consciousness is eternal. This world is not eternal. This is a temporary production, and the temporary stone cannot produce eternal consciousness. Pure consciousness is an eternal subject. Nitya Sanatana. It is not a product. It is productive. Ether can produce fire and earth, but the earth cannot produce ether. The gross is of secondary importance. The soul, Atma, is of principal importance. Yes, Arun Krishna Prabhu, please go ahead.
Well, I'd like to just share some thoughts on what is ether. Some people who think they are highly scientific, they turn off their switches the moment they hear the word ether, to say, oh, in the modern systems there is nothing like ether. Ether was a hypothesis of the 19th century or the earlier 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
And it really came about from the fact that how could light travel from sun to earth? It must have some medium, just like sound needs a medium to transfer from point A to B. That was the notion of ether. And then the early scientific advances in 20th century, which gave birth to the electromagnetic theory, presupposes that there is no need for a thing called ether. So at least when I was growing up in college and so on, um, the notion of ether was forgotten because it was a easy concept for kindergartners, not good enough for the real scientists. So when when Guru Maharaj is mentioning ether, some um, restless scientists may become turn off the switch. Whoever is preaching ether must be wrong. The fact of the matter is today, if anybody understands what is space, people say definition of space is where there is nothing. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's the current nation. That if you leave Earth gravitational field or you go towards moon or you go towards Mars, there is nothing in there. There is emptiness. That is what we call as ether. There is not even I'm sorry, that is what we call as space. There is not even anything called ether there. But now we are licking our spit. Now we know what we know as space is in fact not empty at all. Now we understand space is full of all possibilities. From space, from zero, I can create matter. From space, I can create energy and matter, which is quite surprising for people who are not up to speed on this. So much so, the space between our star and the core of our Milky Way, for example, is not empty. That is what when we today say dark matter or dark energy, that space that we say is empty is actually full of this energy from which gravity or matter can come magically out without and nobody can explain how it comes about. But at least now the scientists understand there is that space is not empty. So when it is not empty, that is the new definition of ether. So when Guru Maharaj is saying ether, we must understand, if we are fully up to speed as a scientist, that yes, that ether that is being talked about is the space full of potential.
Potentiality.
Yes.
Yes. Everything is to be known by its potential, and more than what it actually apparently is. So, but then you need that kind of eyes to see. So no material instrument can lend you that. And our gurus, they've said that again and again, and this is to all scientists, all persons of scientific persuasion, is that just with a little bit of faith invested in the science of consciousness, you study this, and all answers, all your questions would be answered.
Prabhu,
Yes, Chinmoy Prabhu.
when I was growing up, I actually heard about dark matter before I heard about the Vedic conception of ether. And then when I heard about the Vedic conception of ether, because dark matter was something they could not measure, they could not see, they could not hear, they could not taste, but it was everywhere, and it comprised most of the universe, dark matter, but they couldn't measure, they couldn't see it or anything.
Yeah.
And then also dark energy, they later discovered dark energy. And then when I started reading the Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures and the description of ether, I was like, well, that's what they're talking about.
Right.
They just don't know it. They're talking about ether.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's some of the information, the Vedic information, kind of pilfers because people with ulterior motives, they try to get some information and then try to make some name and fame of it. But even so, something good comes out, because They may make name or fame, but some of it is coming out, and then persons with advanced understanding like Sripad Chinmayadev Prabhu, they can see it like that's this, and they can connect the dots. So
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with
I
the
also see a very simple way to understand what Sridhar Maharaj is saying, that everything is coming from consciousness. Because if you look around your room right now, anyone, look around your room and look on every object you see around you, where is the source of that object? And you could say the store, some factory, but eventually all the objects around you in your room comes from consciousness. Someone thought about it. Someone created it in their mind, and then it took form.
idea before the object.
Yeah. So there must be consciousness.
Always seed before the tree.
Mm.
So
What are you saying? The chicken came first, not the egg. Prabhu, you're wrong.
well, just to let you know, we're vegetarian, so FYI.
Okay.
I was just joking, but
And let's go from the seed and tree only, right?
yeah, that's why I gave the example of seed and tree because Arun Prabhu fell for it. I set you up, Arun Prabhu. Let me see here. Okay, so now he says ether can produce let me see, the soul is endowed, the soul atma is of principal importance. The origin of everything must be conscious. The starting point must begin with the interested party. The soul is endowed with interest, but a stone has no interest, plan or project, nothing of the kind. But there is a plan and a purpose pervading everything, and that is the important thing. According to that consideration, the characteristic of the Absolute, the original substance, should be calculated. An object of limited attributes and capacity cannot be the ultimate cause. Only a thing of unlimited quality and capacity should be taken as the cause of the whole. That is a more reasonable idea. Science should realize this. So there are some who think that science is gradually trying to meet philosophy. Karmic boomerang. Material science is only increasing the circumference of the mortal world, but increasing the tendency of exploitation cannot help us. Science is only borrowing, extorting power from nature. According to Newton, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. We must be conscious of this fact. All our acquisition here is nothing. Like a boomerang, it will come back to zero again. So scientific progress is no progress. It is progress in the wrong direction. Actually, the first principle of any living body is to save himself. That is the first principle, and that should be our starting point. In the Upanishads, it is said, Asato ma sadgamay, tamaso ma jyotirgamay, mrityor ma mritam gamay. I tried to sing it.
Like the morning prayer.
This is in the Vedic meter.
Yeah, and in my school, we would sing that first thing in the morning.
Yeah. Asato ma sadgamay. Yes,
Yes, Anilji?
yes, Anilji.
Yeah, this was the morning prayer for our school also, right? Astoma Sadgamats. All KVs.
Wow, I must say that is a really nice prayer to sing in the morning. We had Yeah, our prayer. We didn't have a prayer like that.
Our Father, our prayer was, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I went to a Baptist school.
Yeah, no, that was our prayer too. Just, please give me something, God.
Yeah, just give me a daily bread and then
Yeah,
we'll
give
see
them-
what we can give you. You know, it depends. The kind of energy
At
we'll
least they
have.
remind them, see, there is something higher.
But this is, yeah, asato ma satgamay, tamso ma jyotirgamay, mrityor ma mritam gamay. Let's see. Param Guru Mahārāj, what he says. I am mortal, make me eternal. I am ignorant, filled with nescience. Take me to science, knowledge. And I am threatened with misery, guide me towards bliss. We should begin our research work in these three phases. How to save one's own self and save the world. How to remove darkness and attain light, and how to remove misery and taste nectar. The sweet life of eternity, knowledge and bliss. Satchid Anand, Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Hare Krishna. So you see how he has explained here, when one important thing is, I noticed that in the theistic circles, especially in the West, I don't know if you've noticed or not, if you're a man of science, if you say I'm a person of science or I'm scientific, then they will feel that you can be theistic. They're two different watertight compartments. They never intermix. But how that is shattered here by the explanation Param Guru Mahārāj gives. That he says, no, be scientific. See, he says, I'm filled with nescience. Take me to science. This is true heart of Vedantic teaching. Asatau ma sadgamay, tamsau ma jyotirgamay, mrityor ma mritam gamay. How wonderfully he is giving that, no, these are two not divorced entities. Theism and science they're one and the same. Actually, science is coming from theism. And it's really difficult to harmonize this from a Western standpoint. Because, like, what they have, the modern scientists have, like the Big Bang and quantum and other paradigms, they're not able to harmonize with the theistic conceptions that exist in the West. So then what happens is this haphazard thing of, okay, either you're this or you're this. But the highest harmony, how wonderfully everything is accommodated. We see in Guru Mahārāj's conception. So I'm going to pause here if you guys permit. It's we can have Hariharai. And please, some discussion. Anilji, what do you feel?
Yeah, I totally agree on that point, right? That if you are thinking science and is totally different, right? Than what we are studying here, right? Then it is that thing then, because you cannot, you have to be logical but in the right direction, right? That's what he's trying to say with the Soma Sadagamya. And Soma Jyotirgamya. Mrityorma Mridamgamya. Yeah. So if I'm remembering the correct meanings, basically take me to the right path. Astoma Sadgamya. Tamsoma Jyotirgamya means I'm in darkness. take me to the light.
Mm-hmm.
And Mrityurmam Mritam Gamya, I am mortal, and take me to the immortality. Right?
Yeah, he is taking it a little deeper. I mean, what you're saying is absolutely right. But Param Guru Mahārāj says, when he says Amrit, he means actually Amrit means taste nectar. So, and then when he says Satchid Anand, the last stage is Anand. Satyam Shivam Sundaram, beauty. He's taking it to that highest conception. So Sat is the point where right now our existence is Asat. It will come to an end, as we know of it. Right? Our life is a temporary undertaking. It's a project. It has a definite beginning. It'll last for some time and it'll end. So it's temporary. That is Asat. Right? Asat means that. That which has that which is not eternal is Asat.
Or
And-
conversely, that is illusion. No? It's a misidentification compared to Sat, which is knowing the reality for what it is.
Yeah, our own thing here. This is simply saying for me, Asat is beginning with my existence, which is my understanding is false right now. Why? Because I have taken shelter completely of the external energy and I do not know about my real self. So I am completely caught up in this objective world and I'm objectifying myself as well. And that is Asat. It will come to an end as a body. Jatasya hi dhruva mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha. One who has taken birth, death is certain. And one who has died, birth is certain. That is the nature of the external world. Like we say, there's no certainty. There are two certainties. Jatasya hi dhruva mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha. So this birth and death, this constant birth and death, is Asat. And deep inside, we resist it because somewhere in the core of our being, we know that this is unnatural to us. But we don't know the answer, and under illusion, we try to just not discuss it or deal with this question of Asat, of death, starting with us, individually. So from that existence, when we come to this actual realization and understanding that we are eternal, that is Sat. Really. Yes, Arun Prabhu, sorry.
Guru Maharaj's last sentence, if one can just pay a little attention, that is a kunji, that is the key. That is, I am in nations and I want to go to science. And any student should really meditate a little into this. Recognize that I am in nations. I do not know. I am in frame of illusion and disremembrance. At least when I was growing up, you can become a scientist, you can become an engineer, you can become a science student. The whole system really taught me just Lakir ke Fakir. What it did not teach me is science is rooted, it begins from darshan, philosophy.
Jai.
And that's the way it was, I understand, in the previous generations. When you go to high school and so on, when one of the subjects which is non-arts to you, you start with darshan, you start with philosophy. That is the reason when I do a doctorate in engineering, it is called doctorate or philosophy, doctor of philosophy, PhD. PhD in electronics or information, it's about what? Philosophy. Now you have, so one must understand from nations to science, the step starts from something, but it goes towards getting that vision, which is philosophy. And the principle, the very principle of philosophy is, if I am situated in nations, I know little more, I must understand there are things that I don't understand. That is missing in the ego, in the big ego that scientists today, spread around, or people with money spread around. I know everything. Whereas if they are truly a student of science, they would leave the option of, I may have missed certain things. There are things that I don't yet understand. If one starts from there, then there is a good chance that I can progress in science.
True.
That's all, Prabhuji.
Jai. No, that's absolutely. So please continue. I'm gonna gather the team here. Continue, Arun Prabhu and Chinmoy Prabhu and Anilji.
I don't have anything more. I speak a lot. So, Chinmay Prabhu, maybe you can share something.
Well, I like how Shushramaj, how he ties in the fact that we have to search these three things: this knowledge, this eternity, and this this flip. We have to search for those three things, and that's exactly actually the three characteristics of the Jiva soul, Sat Chitananda.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I've heard it described is like eternity. What good is eternity if it's not conscious? And what good is eternal consciousness if it's not seeking ecstasy?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very beautiful thing that's who we are. That's the nature of the Jiva soul, is an eternally conscious being seeking ecstasy.
From Guru Maharaj say, Rasa Jigyasa. Ato Rasa Jigyasa. I search for. Thank you, Chinmay Prabhu. Very beautiful, yeah. I listen Param Guru Maharaj. People can hear. He explains so nicely, so beautiful. Yeah, so amazing. He starts from Vrindavan, so high. But he is so loving, so compassionate. You save yourself.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Hariharaya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hariharaya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra.
Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath.
Jaya Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath.
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
Ichchai Gosai Kori Charana Vandan.
Ichchai Gosai Kori Charana Vandan.
Jaha hoite Vignana Shabishta Puran.
Jaha te Vignana Abhishta Purana.
Ichchai Gosai Jar Mui Taradas.
Ichchai Gosai Jar Mui Taradas.
Tansabara Padarenu Mora Panchagras.
Tansabara Padare Mura Panchagras.
Tandera Charana Se Vibhakta Sanevas.
Tandara Charana Se Vibhakta Sanevas.
Janame Mora Ei Abhilash.
Janame Janame Mura Ehi Abhilash.
Ichchai Gosai Jabe Braja Koilabas.
Ichchai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas.
Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash.
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan.
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Jaya.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas.
Hari Nam Sankirtana Kohe Narottama Das.
Hari Nam Sankirtana Kohe Narottama Das.
Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Jai Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar.
Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar.
Jai. Okay, Anika ji, ready? Okay, please take it away.
Jai Satri Guru Rakṣhak Śrīdhar Gopila Jai. Jai Om Shaparavartikita Priya Srimad Bhakti Sundar Dev-Goswāmī Mahārāj ki Jai.
Jai.
Shaparavartikita Priya Srimad Bhakti Sundar Dev-Goswāmī Mahārāj ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Om Shaparavartikita Priya Srimad Bhakti Sundar ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Om Shri Gaur Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Om Shri Nand Bhakti Noda Chakur ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Om Shri Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Rupanuga Gurvaga ki Jai.
Jai.
Namachar Shakti Das Chakur ki Jai.
Jai.
Motivational Vinda ki Jai. Shri Baladeva Vidyabhushan ki Jai. Śrīla Vishwanath Chakravarti Prabhu ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Narottam Shyam Shivashanachar Prabhu ki Jai.
Jai.
Śrīla Vrindavan Das Thakur ki Jai.
Jai.
Śrīla Krishna Das Kaviraj ki Jai.
Jai.
Saprasada Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki Jai.
Jai.
Saprasada Shri Mahaprabhu ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyamakunda Radhakunda Girdhar Govardhan ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Lakshmi Varadeva ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Lakshmi Varadeva ki Jai.
Jai.
Sudha Bhakti Vigna Vinashaya Shri Narasimha Deva ki Jai.
Jai.
Bhakta Prabhupada Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Tulsi Maharani ki Jai.
Jai.
Ganga Jamuna ji ki Jai.
Jai.
Rantarajeshun Bhagavatam Chaitanya Charamatra ki Jai.
Jai.
Vishwa Navraja Sabha ki Jai.
Jai.
Akrak Mat Shri Chaitanya Mat ki Jai.
Jai.
Saldesaka Mat ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki Jai.
Jai.
Vishwa Bhakta
Jai.
Dhamma ki Jai.
Jai.
Dhamma ki Jai.
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham ki Jai.
Jai.
Baldeva Subhadra Jamuna ji ki Jai.
Jai.
Govinda Kunda ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Saraswati Ganga ji ki Jai.
Jai.
Vaishnav ki Jai.
Jai.
Samavita Bhakti Vinda ki Jai.
Jai.
Harinam Kitan ki Jai.
Jai.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Shri Anika ji, Bikram ji, Preeti ji and family ki Jai. Divine Panda Shripad Chinmadev Prabhu and Shripad Arun Krishna Prabhu ki Jai. Shri Anil ji ki Jai. Ramananda ji ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardhan Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj ki Jai. Vishwarenya Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Acharya Vrinda ki Jai. Nittai Gaur Premanande. Hari 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 Bo.
Shripad Jaram Prabhu ki Jai. Abadi Jai. Kirtan Prabhu ki Jai.
Jai.